The large meeting room buzzed with voices from many different worlds. Lisa Morgan sat quietly in her chair, watching the other alien representatives talk among themselves. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her head, messages kept coming through her brain implant, important messages about things happening across the galaxy. Lisa was the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. For 3 years now, she had been coming to these meetings. The aliens had gotten used to having humans around. Maybe they had gotten too comfortable. The tall blue aliens called Zilithians were pushing harder than before. They wanted human territory. They kept asking for more and more space that belonged to humans. Their leader, a being with 4 arms named Council Speaker Vorth, kept making demands during every meeting. The bug-like aliens called Kravex were getting bolder too. They had been attacking human ships that carried goods between planets. Captain Jake Sullivan had told Lisa about 15 attacks in the past month. The Kravex would swarm the ships like angry wasps, taking everything valuable and leaving the crews floating in space. Even the peaceful Althurians were starting to cause problems. These gray-skinned aliens had always been friendly before, but now they were questioning whether humans really deserved to mine certain asteroids. They said humans were too new to the galaxy to claim such valuable resources. Jake Sullivan sat in his command center on Earth, watching the council meeting through a video feed. His weathered face showed years of fighting in Earth's old wars. His fingers drummed on his desk as he read report after report. 15 human colonies were being watched by alien spy ships. 3 cargo ships had disappeared completely last week. And now the worst news of all. The Kravex were planning something big. Intelligence reports said they were moving their main battle fleet toward human space. The target seemed to be the Kepler system, where 3 million humans lived on various planets and space stations. Jake had been a soldier for 30 years. He knew the signs of war coming. The problem was that the aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans preferred talking to fighting. In a way, they were right. Humans did prefer peace, but they were very wrong about what humans could do when peace was no longer possible. The Earth Defense Coalition had made a plan 3 years ago when humans first met the galactic community. The plan was simple. Let the aliens think humans were not very dangerous. Let them believe humans were just another weak species that needed protection. Let them make that mistake until they pushed too far. That plan was called the Long Sleep. Human ships in space were disguised to look like simple cargo haulers and research vessels. Human weapons were hidden inside what looked like mining equipment. Human soldiers pretended to be scientists and traders. The entire human military had been playing a role for 3 years. Lisa looked around the council chamber. She saw the confident faces of alien leaders who thought they knew everything about humans. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. The Zilithian speaker was talking now about human expansion beyond their means. He said humans were taking up too much space for such a small military force. The other aliens nodded in agreement. They saw humans as prey animals trying to act like predators. What they did not know was that Earth had been preparing for galactic war since before humans had even met aliens. Every human child learned basic military training in school. Every human colony had hidden weapons and trained fighters. Every human ship had secret compartments filled with military equipment. The Kravex representative started making clicking sounds with his mouth parts. This was how his species laughed. He was telling the council about human weakness and how easy it would be to take human territory. Other aliens made their own versions of laughter. Lisa's implant buzzed with an urgent message from Admiral Kevin Barnes. The message was short but terrible. Kravex fleet moving toward New Portland. 3 days maximum until they arrive. Population cannot be evacuated in time. New Portland was a farming colony in the Kepler system. Families lived there with their children. People who had never hurt anyone and just wanted to grow food and live peaceful lives. The Kravex were going to attack them like they had attacked so many other defenseless colonies. But New Portland was not defenseless. None of the human colonies were. That was the biggest secret of all. Lisa touched her sleeve where a small device was hidden. She had hoped never to use it. For 3 years, she had been working to keep peace between humans and aliens. She had been trying to find ways for everyone to live together without fighting. But sometimes predators only understood one language. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully was to show them what real strength looked like. The Kravex representative was still making his clicking laugh sounds. He was telling the other aliens how his species would teach the soft humans their place in the galaxy. The other species listened with interest. Some even seemed excited about watching humans get defeated. Jake Sullivan was reading the latest intelligence reports from the Kepler system. Human spy satellites showed the Kravex fleet was enormous, hundreds of ships filled with thousands of warriors. They were planning to land on New Portland and take everything valuable. Anyone who resisted would be killed or taken as slaves. But Jake was not worried about the size of the Kravex fleet. He was thinking about the phone call he would have to make soon. The call that would end 3 years of careful pretending. The call that would show the galaxy what humans really were underneath their peaceful masks. Lisa stood up in the council chamber. She had made her decision. Her hand moved to the device in her sleeve. 3 years of peace and cooperation were about to end. 3 years of letting aliens think humans were weak and harmless were over. She pressed the button on the hidden device. Across human space, thousands of receivers got the same simple message. 2 words that would change everything. The message was Condition Omega. Within minutes, the sleeping giant would wake up. And when it did, the galaxy would learn the difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. Admiral Kevin Barnes sat in his office deep under the Colorado mountains. The emergency message had just come through. The Kravex attack on New Portland had begun. 3 million humans were trapped on the planet's surface while bug-like warriors swarmed down from the sky like angry hornets. Kevin had been waiting for this moment for 3 years, not wanting it but knowing it would come. The Kravex were natural predators. They lived by taking what others had built. They could not understand any language except violence. In the Galactic Council chamber, the Kravex representative was making clicking sounds of joy. The insect-like alien called Hive Speaker Zextal was telling the other species about the attack. His multiple eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he spoke. The soft flesh humans are learning their place, Zextal announced to the assembled aliens. New Portland burns as we speak. The human farmers run like scared animals. Perhaps now the humans will pay us for protection like other weak species do. The other alien representatives listened with different reactions. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed interested in how this would end. A few even looked pleased that the upstart humans were getting taught a lesson. Lisa Morgan kept her face calm, but her heart was racing. She knew what was about to happen across the galaxy. In a few hours, everything would change. The careful game of pretending to be weak was over. On Earth, Jake Sullivan was watching displays that showed the real human military awakening. Ships that had been hidden for years were powering up their engines. Weapons that had been disguised as mining tools were revealing their true nature. Soldiers who had been pretending to be farmers and scientists were putting on their real uniforms. The transformation was happening everywhere at once. In the asteroid fields around Jupiter, what looked like mining stations opened up to reveal massive warships. Near Saturn, cargo containers floating in space suddenly split apart to show fighter squadrons. Even the moon had surprises hidden under its surface. Captain Helen Price commanded a ship called the UES Retribution. For 3 years, everyone thought it was a deep space research vessel. Scientists came and went. It published papers about star formation and cosmic radiation. But underneath the research equipment was one of the most powerful warships ever built. Helen had been playing the role of a civilian scientist for so long that some days she almost forgot who she really was. But today, as her crew shed their fake identities and became soldiers again, she remembered. She was a predator who had been pretending to be prey. The orders came through military channels that the aliens did not know existed. Human communication systems had been hidden inside civilian networks for 3 years. While aliens thought they were intercepting human messages about trade and science, the real military communications were happening right under their noses. General Ryan Cooper received his activation orders aboard what everyone thought was a luxury passenger liner. The ship was called the UES Apex Hunter, though aliens knew it by its fake name, the Peaceful Journey. Ryan had been posing as a wealthy businessman who liked to travel between star systems. Now his ship was revealing its true nature. The passenger decks folded away to show gun batteries. The entertainment areas opened up to launch fighter bays. The swimming pool drained to reveal a command center that could coordinate battles across multiple star systems. Ryan opened communications not just with the Kravex fleet, but with every species watching from the council chamber. His voice was calm and steady, like a teacher explaining something simple to children who had not been paying attention. For 3 years you have known humanity as builders, traders, and diplomats. This was not a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. Today you will see what we chose not to show you. We are predators who learned to farm. We are warriors who chose to build. And when you threaten our children, you will see what we protect them with. The Kravex fleet around New Portland had been feeling confident. They had hundreds of ships and thousands of warriors. They thought they were attacking a helpless farming colony with maybe a few patrol boats for defense. They were wrong. The human ships appeared as if they had been created from empty space itself. One moment the Kravex were alone around the planet. The next moment they were surrounded by a fleet that seemed to have materialized from nowhere. But these were not normal warships. These were vessels designed by a species that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Humans had learned to kill each other with rocks and sticks, then spears, then bullets, then bombs that could destroy entire cities. They had practiced warfare on each other until they understood it better than any other species in the galaxy. The Kravex had been the terror of the galaxy for centuries. Their swarm tactics had destroyed countless civilizations, but they had never faced anything like this. The human fleet did not attack right away. Instead, they broadcast a message to the Kravex warriors. The voice was that of Admiral Kevin Barnes speaking directly from Earth. You came here to hurt our families. You came here to take what we built with our own hands. You came here thinking we were weak. You were wrong about everything except one thing. We do not want to fight, but when you give us no choice, we will show you why every predator species in Earth's history learned to fear humans. The Kravex tried to retreat, but they quickly discovered they were not just surrounded. They were trapped. Human ships had been waiting in every direction. The trap had been planned and prepared long before the Kravex even decided to attack. What happened next would be talked about in the galaxy for generations. The Kravex fleet, which had terrorized half the known worlds, was systematically taken apart by human forces. Not destroyed, but disabled with a precision that bordered on art. Human ships moved like hunters who had studied their prey for years. Every weakness in Kravex ship design had been discovered and catalogued. Every flaw in their tactics had been noted and prepared for. The humans fought like they had been planning this exact battle for decades, because they had been. In 43 minutes, the entire Kravex attack force was floating helplessly in space. Their weapons were destroyed. Their engines were dead, but their life support systems were untouched. The humans had shown they could kill every Kravex warrior, but chose not to. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed what they had been hiding, not just military power, but the discipline to use it with surgical precision, the wisdom to know the difference between defeating an enemy and destroying them. The message was clear. Humans were not just another prey species pretending to be dangerous. They were apex predators who had chosen to be guardians instead. The Galactic Council chamber had become completely silent. Every alien representative stared at the screen showing what was happening around New Portland. The Kravex fleet, which had been the nightmare of the galaxy for hundreds of years, was floating in pieces around the human colony, but it was not the destruction that shocked them. It was the control. Human ships had taken apart the Kravex fleet like a surgeon removing a tumor. Every cut had been precise. Every strike had been calculated. The humans had shown they could have killed every Kravex warrior, but instead they had simply made it impossible for them to fight. Admiral Kevin Barnes opened a communication channel that reached every ship, every space station, and every planet in Council space. His weathered face appeared on billions of screens across the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of authority that came from years of command. 3 years ago, we came to you in peace. We offered trade, friendship, and cooperation. Some of you welcomed us. Others saw us as weak prey to be exploited. Today, you learn the truth about what you have been dealing with. On the bridge of the UES Apex Hunter, General Ryan Cooper was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. Ships that had been hiding throughout the galaxy were revealing themselves. Weapon systems that had been disguised as civilian equipment were coming online. Soldiers who had been pretending to be merchants and scientists were taking their real positions. The transformation was happening everywhere at once. Near the Althurian homeworld, what had appeared to be a small trading post suddenly expanded into a massive military base. Around the Zilithian capital system, cargo ships opened up to reveal fighter squadrons and assault troops. Even in the neutral zones, human research stations were showing their true nature as forward observation posts. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was working from her hidden command center on the moon. For 3 years, she had been collecting information about every alien military force in the galaxy. The other species thought their communications were secure. They were wrong. Amy activated displays that showed the council representatives exactly how much humans really knew about them. Detailed maps of every Zilithian military base appeared on the screens. Real-time locations of every Althurian patrol ship were highlighted. Even the secret weapons research facilities that aliens thought were completely hidden were marked with precise coordinates. "We know the name of every admiral in your fleets," Amy said, her voice carrying to every council member. "We know the location of every weapons depot, every shipyard, every hidden base. We have known these things since our 2nd month in council space, and we have shared none of this information with your enemies because we are not conquerors. We are protectors." The alien representatives looked at each other with growing alarm. The Zilithian council speaker Vorth was staring at detailed plans of his own flagship. Plans that showed the location of his private quarters, his escape pods, even the hidden safe where he kept his personal valuables. The Althurian ambassador was looking at communication transcripts from conversations she thought had been completely private. Messages to her government about human weaknesses and how to exploit them. Messages that proved humans had been listening to everything for years. But the most shocking revelation came when Amy showed them the human fleet in its true size. For 3 years, aliens had counted about 300 human ships in space. Now they were seeing the truth. Thousands of vessels were emerging from hiding places throughout the galaxy. Some had been hidden inside gas giant atmospheres, using the radiation to mask their signatures. Others had been disguised as asteroids in remote systems. Many had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars, powered down and waiting for the activation signal. Captain Helen Price was leading a squadron of ships that had been pretending to be a geological survey team. They had spent 3 years mapping mineral deposits in the outer rim. But what they had really been doing was setting up a network of hidden supply bases and sensor stations. Now her squadron was revealing weapons that made alien military technology look primitive. Energy beams that could punch through the strongest armor. Missiles that could track targets across entire star systems. Defensive shields that could absorb the firepower of entire fleets. But it was not just the technology that impressed and terrified the watching aliens. It was the coordination. Every human ship, every base, every soldier was working together like parts of a single organism. The level of planning and preparation was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans had not just been hiding their military strength. They had been studying every potential enemy for 3 years. They knew the strengths and weaknesses of every alien species. They had planned countermeasures for every possible threat. General Ryan Cooper addressed the council again, his image appearing on screens throughout the chamber. Behind him, displays showed human forces across the galaxy, all now visible in their true strength. "You thought we were weak because we chose cooperation over conquest. You mistook our desire for peace as inability to make war. This was not an error in your judgment. It was a failure in your imagination." The Kravex hive speaker Zextel was clicking his mandibles in distress. His species had thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had built their entire civilization around being stronger and more vicious than everyone else. Now they were learning that they had been living next to something far more dangerous, something that had been holding back its true nature. The human demonstration continued as ships across the galaxy revealed their hidden capabilities. What had looked like simple cargo haulers opened up to show massive gun batteries. Mining vessels revealed that their drilling equipment could be used as weapons capable of cracking planets. Even civilian passenger ships showed hidden compartments filled with military equipment. Admiral Kevin Barnes appeared on the screens again. This time he was standing in a command center that the aliens had never seen before. The room was deep underground, protected by armor that could survive planet-killing weapons. Around him, displays showed the locations and status of every human military asset in the galaxy. "We did not hide our capabilities to deceive you," Kevin said. "We hid them to protect you from us and from yourselves. Every species in this chamber has the potential to become what the Kravex were, predators who consume everything they touch. We chose a different path." The alien representatives were beginning to understand the full scope of what they were seeing. Humanity had not just been pretending to be weak. They had been actively restraining themselves. For 3 years, they had been living among species that they could have conquered in days. The Althurian ambassador asked the question that everyone was thinking. Why? Why hide this? Why pretend to be helpless when you could have ruled us all? Lisa Morgan stood to answer. She had been quiet during the entire demonstration, letting the military show their strength. Now it was time for diplomacy again, but diplomacy backed by undeniable power. Because ruling through fear is not ruling at all, she said. It is just slow-motion destruction. We learned this lesson on our own world through thousands of years of war. The strongest predator is not the one who kills everything around them. It is the one who protects what matters most. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. Humanity was not revealing their strength to threaten anyone. They were revealing it to establish a new understanding. They were showing the galaxy what real strength looked like, when it was guided by wisdom instead of hunger. The galaxy was watching in real time as humanity revealed the true scope of their hidden civilization. What the aliens had thought was a small, peaceful species was showing itself to be the most sophisticated military power the galaxy had ever seen. But it was not just the size of the human fleet that shocked the council representatives. It was the intelligence network that came with it. For 3 years, while aliens thought they were watching humans, humans had been watching everyone else. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was now broadcasting from her intelligence center on Luna. The room around her was filled with displays showing information that made the alien representatives gasp in disbelief. She had detailed files on every species in the galaxy, down to the personal habits of their leaders. When we joined the Galactic Council, we came as students, Amy explained to the stunned audience. We studied your cultures, your histories, your military capabilities. But we also studied your weaknesses, your fears, your secret plans, not to use against you, but to understand how to live safely among you. The displays around her showed information that should have been impossible to obtain. She had real-time access to Zilithian military communications. She could monitor Althurian government meetings as they happened. She even had access to the private journals of several council members. The Zilithian council speaker Vorth was staring at his own medical records displayed on the screen. Information about his health problems that only his personal doctor should have known. Amy smiled and showed him more. His financial records, his voting history, even his family's personal communications. We know your daughter is getting married next month, Amy told him. We know about your concerns regarding her choice of husband. We know about the medical treatment you have been receiving in secret. We know these things not because we are cruel, but because information is how we protect ourselves and others. The Althurian ambassador was looking at transcripts of conversations she had never realized were being recorded. Private meetings with her government where they discussed ways to undermine human influence in the council. Plans to claim human territory by legal manipulation. Strategies to turn other species against humanity. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Amy activated a new display that showed the hidden human presence throughout the galaxy. What aliens had thought were isolated human colonies were revealed to be nodes in a vast network of bases, sensors, and communication relays. The trading posts that humans had established in neutral space were actually military outposts capable of projecting force across multiple star systems. The research stations in remote areas were advanced listening posts that could monitor communications across half the galaxy. Even the mining operations in asteroid fields were revealed to be manufacturing facilities producing military equipment. Captain Jake Sullivan appeared on screen from his command center on Earth. Behind him, displays showed the orbital defense platforms that had been hidden around the solar system. What aliens had thought was a lightly defended home system was actually a fortress that could stop entire invasion fleets. We have been preparing for this day since before we met any of you, Jake explained to the council. Not because we wanted war, but because we understood that peace only exists when those who value it are strong enough to protect it. The Human Defense Network was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. It was not just about weapons and ships. It was about information, coordination, and planning on a scale that required thinking in centuries rather than years. General Ryan Cooper continued the revelation from his command ship. Around New Portland, the disabled Kravex fleet was being processed by human forces with mechanical efficiency. Surviving warriors were being separated from their ships. Weapons were being cataloged and destroyed. The entire operation was happening with a precision that spoke of long practice. The Kravex attack today was not unexpected, Ryan announced. We have been monitoring their fleet movements for months. We knew when they would attack, where they would attack, and how many ships they would bring. We allowed it to happen because it was time for the galaxy to understand what we really are. The alien representatives were beginning to realize that nothing they had done in the past 3 years had been hidden from human observation. Every military movement, every secret meeting, every private communication had been monitored and recorded, but the humans had shared none of this information with anyone else. They had not sold intelligence to the highest bidder. They had not used their knowledge to gain advantage in trade negotiations. They had not revealed the secrets of one species to their enemies. Admiral Kevin Barnes appeared on the main screen again. This time, he was standing in what was clearly the nerve center of human military operations. The room was vast, filled with displays showing the status of human forces across the galaxy. Officers moved between stations with the calm efficiency of people who had been preparing for this moment for years. 3 years ago, when we first met your species, we made a choice, Kevin said. We could have conquered you then. Our technology was already superior to yours. Our military was already more advanced. Our intelligence capabilities were already beyond anything you possessed. He gestured to the displays around him, showing the true extent of human power. But we chose a different path. We chose to see if it was possible to live among you as equals rather than rulers. We chose to see if the galaxy could be a place where strength served wisdom rather than hunger. The revelation continued as human ships throughout the galaxy revealed their true capabilities. Weapon systems that had been disguised as scientific instruments showed their real power. Defense platforms that had been hidden in plain sight activated their shields and sensors. Even civilian ships revealed hidden compartments filled with military equipment. The scale of the deception was staggering. For 3 years, humanity had been operating what was essentially the largest intelligence and military operation in galactic history. They had been preparing for every possible threat while maintaining the appearance of being a small, peaceful species. But perhaps the most shocking revelation was the restraint they had shown. With all this power, with all this knowledge, with all this capability, they had chosen to use none of it for conquest or domination. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster made this point clear as she addressed the Council one final time from her lunar command center. We could have blackmailed your governments with the secrets we discovered. We could have manipulated your markets with the information we gathered. We could have conquered your worlds with the forces we prepared. Instead, we chose to be neighbors. The displays around her showed human ships across the galaxy, all now visible in their true strength. But they were not attacking anyone. They were not making demands. They were not threatening conquest. They were simply making it clear that such options existed and were being deliberately rejected. The Althurian ambassador found her voice first. Why reveal this now? Why end the deception? Lisa Morgan stood to answer, her diplomatic training helping her find the right words for this unprecedented moment. Because the Kravex attack on New Portland showed us that our peaceful approach was being mistaken for weakness. Because other species were beginning to see humans as prey rather than partners. Because sometimes the only way to maintain peace is to demonstrate the cost of breaking it. The council chamber remained silent as the full implications settled in. They were not just learning about human military power. They were learning about a completely different approach to existence in a dangerous galaxy. They were seeing what it looked like when a species chose to be protectors rather than predators. The Kravex surrender came exactly 12 hours after their attack began. It was not because their fleet had been destroyed, though it easily could have been. It was because they had been shown something that shattered their understanding of the galaxy's power structure. Hive speaker Zextal broadcast the surrender message from his disabled flagship. His multiple eyes were no longer gleaming with confidence. Instead, they showed the fear that came from realizing his species had just attacked something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The Kravex Hive acknowledges the strength of the human pack. He clicked in the formal language of his people. We withdraw our claim to human territory. We will not attack human colonies again. We ask only that our warriors be allowed to return to the Hive worlds. General Ryan Cooper's response was broadcast to the entire galaxy. Your warriors will be returned unharmed. Your ships will be repaired enough to reach your territory. But understand this. The age of conquest through fear is ending. Find another way to live, or the galaxy will find another way to live without you." In the council chamber, the other alien representatives watched the exchange with growing understanding. This was not just about the Kravex. This was about every species that had been using strength to take what they wanted from weaker neighbors. The Zilithian council speaker Vorth was the first to respond to the new reality. His forearms moved in the gesture of formal submission as he addressed the human delegation. The Zilithian Republic withdraws its territorial claims in human space. We wish to discuss new treaties based on mutual respect, rather than perceived weakness. Admiral Kevin Barnes appeared on the main display to address the entire council. Behind him, the vast command center showed human forces across the galaxy beginning to stand down from full alert, but they remained visible, a permanent reminder of what lay beneath the peaceful surface. "Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic relations," Kevin announced. "Not because we have shown you our strength, but because we have shown you our restraint. Every species in this chamber now knows what we are capable of. More importantly, you know what we choose not to do with that capability." The alien representatives were beginning to process the full scope of the revelation. For 3 years they had been living next to a sleeping giant, a species that could have conquered the galaxy but chose instead to join it as equals. The implications were staggering. Captain Helen Price was overseeing the processing of Kravex prisoners around New Portland. True to human promises, the warriors were being treated with dignity, despite their recent attempt at genocide. They were given medical care, adequate food, and even counseling to help them understand what had happened to their invincible fleet. One young Kravex warrior, barely more than a larva by his species standards, looked up at Helen with compound eyes full of confusion. "Why do you not kill us?" he chittered. "We came to kill your young ones. Your warriors should feast on our corpses." Helen knelt down to bring herself closer to the young alien's eye level. "Because killing you would not make us stronger. Teaching you a better way to live might make all of us stronger." The conversation was being recorded and broadcast across the galaxy. It showed something that many species had forgotten was possible. Victory without vengeance. Strength without cruelty. Back in the council chamber, Lisa Morgan was addressing the assembled representatives for what might be the last time as simply the human ambassador. After today, her role would be different. Humanity's role in the galaxy would be different. "You believed we were weak because we chose cooperation over conquest," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber and every world in council space. "You mistook our desire for peace as inability to wage war. This was not an error in your judgment. It was a failure in your imagination." She gestured to the display still showing human forces across the galaxy. "We did not hide our capabilities to deceive you. We hid them to protect you from us and from yourselves. Every species in this chamber has the potential to become what the Kravex were, predators who consume everything they touch. We chose a different path." The Althurian ambassador raised her gray hand to speak. "What happens now? How do we proceed knowing what we know?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire. Everything had changed in the space of a single day. The careful balance of power that had existed for centuries was gone. In its place was something new, something unprecedented in galactic history. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster provided part of the answer from her lunar command center. "The intelligence we have gathered over the past 3 years will not be used as weapons against you. Your secrets remain your own. Your weaknesses will not be exploited, but understand that we are no longer pretending not to see them." Admiral Kevin Barnes added his voice to the discussion. "Humanity will take its place as a guardian species in this galaxy. Not as rulers, but as protectors. We will use our strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will use our knowledge to prevent conflicts before they begin. We will use our restraint to show that there is another way to be strong." The new galactic charter that emerged from the emergency sessions would be remembered as the document that ended the age of conquest. It established humanity's role as protectors while maintaining the sovereignty of other species. It created new mechanisms for resolving disputes without warfare. Most importantly, it recognized that true strength came from the wisdom to know when not to use power. Captain Jake Sullivan watched from Earth as the crisis transformed into opportunity. The young species that had been threatened by stronger neighbors now looked to humanity for protection. The aggressive species that had built their civilizations on conquest were forced to find new ways to grow and prosper. The change was not instant, and it was not easy. Some species resented the new order. Others tried to test human resolve in small ways. But the galaxy had seen what happened when humans were pushed too far. The lesson was not quickly forgotten. Years later, when young beings of various species asked their elders why the stars were safe to travel, they were told the story of the day the sleeping giants chose to wake up, not to destroy but to defend, not to conquer but to protect. The day the Council saw humanity's predator mode unleash in real time became the day the galaxy learned that the deadliest predators were those who chose to hunt only those who threatened the innocent. It became the day that strength and wisdom learned to work together instead of against each other. And in the years that followed, as peace spread through systems that had known only war, the galaxy discovered something it had never experienced before. The safety that came from knowing that somewhere among the stars, guardians were watching,